too much.
Well, it's officially 4:04, which is the time I randomly chose as the time to start. So Miles, want to kick it off?
Yeah, are we recording?
Yes.
That. Yeah, so for all the newcomers, welcome in to this after-hour workshop. Today we have the Rome on, which is going to be super dope, super excited. Yeah, we can just start off with a little bit of intro from the Rome team, if that's okay. Peter, you want to start it off?
Yeah. Okay. So I don't really think I have a formal way of going about doing this, but so I'm Peter Lucas. I am the writer on the Room team, and a little bit about my journey through coming into this position, I guess, is I used to be majoring in art when I got here as a freshman. I wanted to do photography. That didn't work out. Then I went to journalism, and then I was like, oh, I'm going to be a photojournalist. And then that didn't work out. And then I found out about the ad school, fell in love with it, found out about the Rome, and I don't know, it just spoke to me, and I was like, this is great. This is what we need. And yeah, I was drawn to the Rome because I think it's awesome that students are kind of taking the initiative and claiming some of that power in doing creative work and doing it on their terms and doing it because they love it. So yeah, that's kind of how that's me and how I came to be here.
I guess we'll kick it off next. My name's Patty. I serve as an art director on the Rome. But I was a biology major for the first couple of years of college. Really thought I was going to be doing like research, and I did research in a basement.
What were you doing? What were you doing?
Studying ants, and I found that I didn't want to do that. And like I really enjoyed the collaborative aspect of advertising and like kind of a guided creative way of thinking. So joined the ad school, befriended Maggie, and found all of these cool ways to be involved in the SOJC. And like there's so many different ways to be involved, and you can kind of tailor your journey to yourself. And like I found that the Rome was like really cool opportunity to help other people do that. So yeah, here I
am. And then we also have some other group members that are not here, but Kyla and Chloe are also on our team as well. My name is Rachel. I'm the brand strategist for the Rome, but I specialize in creative production. And I've kind of had a pretty linear route in the SOJC, and I always knew I wanted to do something creative and working with people. And so, yeah, I think the Rome's just a really cool outlet to see what people come up with, and making fun briefs is always a fun time. So yeah, I enjoy working with everyone on the team and seeing what everyone else comes up with.
So I know there's been a workshop before about kind of dissecting a brief, but we're gonna take you guys on the other side of it and like writing it, which is something that we do as a team like twice now, and it's been a really interesting process and kind of like good to step back and kind of take a different seat. So yeah. So what is a creative brief? I kind of pulled a lot from like Tom's class because he kind of really goes into the basics of it, and I think it's a really good place to start. But a creative brief informs and guides the creative. So in the Rome, we're tailoring these briefs not necessarily for the creative, but anyone who wants to like partake in something. Yeah. All right, there are some questions that we ask ourselves. By no means is this like a math equation to follow, but kind of just guiding like what's the opportunity we see, how do we approach that opportunity like within our community, and why should they care, how do we get them involved, and how do we keep the conversation going. And a lot of times that has to do with like social media outreach or any type of like outreach into our community. All right, where do we start? A little checklist. Peter and Rachel, feel free to add on to this, but just any way you can get your ideas out is great. And I think getting dumb ideas out is also even greater. So as a team, we like talk out loud. We have Google Docs, and kind of like keeping an open mind so like your experience isn't swayed one way or another. Yeah, I don't know.
Peter, what do you got?
Yeah. Obviously, like the process is different almost every time we do it, only because it's not just one thing. It's organic. It changes. Um, but yeah, I mean, this is kind of the main thing. It's we all got like those crazy ideas that are going on in our head, just random thoughts that pop in out of nowhere. And a big part of that is just getting it out of your head and onto paper, right? Because once that idea is gone from your head, the likelihood of it coming back is so slim. But if you have it written down, it exists somewhere, right? Like there's a record of it. So a big part of it is just paper and pencil. Just start writing those things down because you never know. You might be flipping through. I mean, right here, this is like my Bible damn near. Like I just have so many pages of just things of just random thoughts that I just dump out there because like then you can keep track of it. And then having an open mind about it. Like do not limit yourself at all because the second you start self-filtering, you could be losing something that could have been something great, right? So just having an open mind, that also plays into the dumb ideas, right? They're just ideas. They're good, they're bad, they're dumb, but like you need to respect them and like vocalize them, put them on paper so that they can be there. And then a big one is just talking out loud, right? Because it also plays into the open mind thing. Like if you're self-filtering ideas and you don't talk about it out loud with someone, like you could have made a decision that like that idea is bad, right? But then if you say it to someone else, they might be like, wait, no, I really like that idea. There's something there. So talking out loud with other people and like collaborating and just vocalizing where your mind's at is a huge part of the process because we don't know if our ideas are crazy or if they're, just crazy enough to be brilliant, right? So yeah, a lot of collaboration and just respecting the like ideation process.
Yeah, I think just to like bounce off what Peter said, and this just really like speaks on to like this whole collaborative aspect. There's such a difference between working by yourself and working with a team, and it doesn't necessarily, like Peter was saying, it's organic every time. So the first brief versus the second brief, someone might have this really like fiery idea they really want to get out into the world, and the next brief that person might not, and then another person does. But something on this second brief that we really did that I saw worked well was just like one person saying something and that leading to that aha moment for the next person being like, oh shit, yeah, that's a great idea. What if we did it this way? Okay, wait, what if we did it this way? So I love the magic of like that whole mindset of just being okay with where it flows and where it's going to go and not having expectations. That's a huge thing.
Yeah, totally. It's like the butterfly effect, right? It's like
Yeah.
that one super dumb idea could have be the first domino that knocks over every single other one that leads you to something great that has nothing to do with the first one.
Exactly.
Like you don't know where like those is a weird analogy, but you don't know where those trailheads lead until you start on one, and then you can find out where it goes. So, yeah.
I think just being okay going down the rabbit hole and like seeing where you go, like Peter was saying, is something I think you almost have to learn because like you kind of want to get it right the first time and it's okay if you don't. We found that out. Yeah, opening the floodgates, seeing where that water pours. So this is kind of a little insight or like preview into kind of what we go through to kind of start our brief and kind of just starting big is like important and like kind of then honing in on what we want. But yeah, if you some of these like ideas didn't come to fruition and that's okay. Like save them for the next round, save them for something else, and kind of who knows where they'll come up again. But in terms of resources, Google Docs is great. Being able to comment, like I find it really hard commenting online and not seeing people in person because it kind of makes it impersonal. So kind of being careful where you trek, and like having these meetings we found with the whole team and like saying it out loud kind of connects the feedback to the person. And like something within the SOJC that I think needs to be improved on is like being okay giving feedback, because if you disconnect yourself from the work, it's okay. Like it's not you. You're not your job. You're not your job title, and you're not this piece of work that you put out into the world. So I think learning how to give and receive feedback is really important, and like something that we've learned writing these briefs, I think.
Totally. I think also Patty brings up like a really good point that we as creatives, especially like being, sophomores, juniors, seniors, and being in quarantine, like we're having to navigate communicating and creating with other people in a way we've never had to before. So it's going to look different every time. For the Rome, it works to do Google Docs and comment on each other and do Slack and meet up, once a week and see what went well and what didn't. But it's going to be different for everyone. And that natural brainstorming session on a whiteboard we don't have. So getting creative is definitely, I think it's actually a good thing. So, but we'll be that much better when we come out after COVID.
Yeah, and just another point on the whole like opening the floodgates, right? It's the first step is like the hardest, as with most things, right? So like when you're sitting down to do something like this, like trying to come up with a brief or trying to solve one or anything, it's just start anywhere, right? Just take the first step. Yeah, I don't know. I just think that's like it's an important part that like I think it's overlooked because you're a lot of times we're like self-monitoring, like, okay, I want to start in this way, or my first step needs to be this. And it's like, screw all that, like just begin wherever you need to. It could be a doodle, that could be your beginning phase, but it's just, like we said, opening the floodgates and just allowing it to start.
Our next thing is getting out the red pen. And so once you do, kind of going back, this is pretty broad. It's big. It's open. Like there's a lot of space for things. And then once you like start zooming in on things, you're really able to like tailor the brief to what you want it to be. And like going back to the questions, like what's the opportunity? What is the purpose? And like similar to like a strategy statement, you always want to refer back to that. So like referring back to those like opportunities that you began with. I know with our first one, it was like there's so many things happening in this world, like we should take advantage of that and let people have this outlet to create, to think, to speak their mind. So I know that was something on our minds when we were writing Dear America versus our new one, which we're gonna show later on. But yeah, I think when you start big, you have more of the opportunity to kind of get smaller with things.
And to kind of work off that, I feel like it's definitely, I think you mentioned like with Dear America, we kind of like went to the idea immediately and like maybe potentially lost. I think it was a good idea, but I think there's also like sometimes knowing that going directly to the idea immediately can sometimes withhold other ideas that might also be really, really cool. So I think with the second brief, we just learned more, and that's in our own like learning process because we're still figuring it all out. Starting big is definitely the way to go, I think.
Totally. And this is probably more up Rachel's alley as our resident brand strategist, but just keeping keeping in sight what the objective is, because like when we're sitting down to work on a creative brief for everyone, it's not our job to like be proposing the answers, right? What our job is we're asking we're trying to develop the right questions to ask the audience so that they can give us amazing answers. So just keeping that like as our like refining tool, like our funnel of like, are we asking the right questions? Are we doing it justice to like spark that creative response? And just keeping track of that so that we aren't having too much fun with it and like getting away from it and not really serving our audience that we're going to give the brief to.
I think something that's a little specific with the realm is like we think of, is this really copy heavy? Is this really creative heavy? Because we want that, like one of the missions of the realm is like inclusivity. and like having it be accessible to everyone in the SOJC and beyond who don't like categorize themselves as a creative, because everyone can be creative. So yeah, we kind of think of, is this gonna, even with the Dear America, the most of our submissions were copy based, and so it's like kind of puts it in a perspective of how the quote unquote audience viewed the brief. So it's kind of interesting. I don't know, audience insights and stuff is something you don't really think about when you're writing a brief, but when you get the results back, it's like a good piece of information, I think.
For sure.
Oh no. All right, let's get those creative juices flowing. That's what you've all been waiting for. So we did drop our recent brief, Think Again, kind of a different light, I guess, than our first one. Still kind of acknowledging in the back of our minds that we are inside a lot and we're surrounded by a lot of things in our home. So kind of going off of that. Yeah.
One thing that we talked about with this brief in particular is just like people have been on their screens for so long that it's just become like repetitive, and we want people to get up out of their seat and go and like actually touch things and like get off a screen. And so that was something that we were thinking with this brief. And I don't know, it's just like, it's interesting how you can take a certain direction with something, but this, for the objective, was just to get people doing something other than looking at a screen after reading the brief.
Totally. And I think one thing that I think our whole team was really stoked on is going back to that idea of it's our job to be asking you guys the right questions. I think that's something that we were all pretty excited about, because we're literally asking the question of like, this is not a pen. What is this to you? What can you possibly imagine this being in some other capacity, right? Like, I think that's something that we're really excited about with this one. It's like we are just literally asking a big question about, how you can imagine and interpret things and think again about it. Yeah, I don't know if it's helpful. Like, I can totally read this brief out loud to you guys. I know it's kind of hard to read while we're all like spitting a bunch of words at you. So if that's helpful, I can do that too.
Read it, Peter. Read it.
Read it. Let's hear it.
Gonna rip it. All right, here we go. So it goes like this. Let's be honest. Staring at your screen all day sucks. We get it. So here's a chance to step away and embark on a mini adventure filled with creative thinking. Shut your laptop and explore the world around you. Stir up some dust on the shelves, dissect the bathroom, then get lost in your junk drawer. Do this until an object stands out to you. Now forget everything you know about that object. The microwave doesn't heat up mac and cheese, your camera doesn't run on batteries, and spatulas don't belong in the kitchen. Observe your object again, but this time with a fresh set of eyes, and see what else you can imagine. We're challenging you to take an ordinary item in your home and reimagine what it is, how it works, and what it can do. Push yourself to see the magnificent in the mundane, or the stupid in the stupendous. As long as you're thinking creatively, you're doing it right. Whatever, and then, use whatever means necessary to get those ideas out of your head and into our inbox. I hope that was
Peter, could not have done a better job myself. That was beautiful.
Awesome. But yeah, hopefully you can see what we're going for in the brief. It's, I don't know. I've been staring at it so long now that I feel like it's self-explanatory, but maybe it isn't. Yeah, we're just like asking everyone to like get up and do these things, ask these questions, like really push yourself to reimagine even the most basic things that you're so familiar with. Yeah.
I have a question for the Rome team. I feel like I always see the submissions, but I never see them from you guys. So I was just curious what item you guys would pick for this.
Shall I give my example from our meeting?
Yeah.
So, and I may do this, so, like, I don't doubt me. But I think, so I was saying in our meeting that you can make masks, everyday blue masks, into a small rat hammock. And that would be, I think really cool. So, just something like that where it's literally chaotic, but it somehow works. Patty, what would you do?
I haven't thought about it yet. It's weird because we do put so much into writing the briefs and then we're like eagerly awaiting for them to be submitted. But yeah, I think it'd be interesting to submit something this round.
Low-key might do it. I would love to see all of y'all do it too.
I'm happy
Yeah,
you
man.
asked that actually, just because like when we do these things, I feel like a lot of times it's things that we ourselves would want to do, but like obviously like we can't really like submit to our own thing and then like publish our own work. It'd be kind of like rigged, I guess. But yeah, I mean it's a good question. Like, and maybe that speaks to a bigger thing of like if you're asking someone else to get excited about an idea, you yourself need to be able to get excited about that idea too, right? Like you can't sell something to someone else that you can't sell to yourself. So, but anyways, my personal take, and I have no clue. It's just like the most broad thought, but I was thinking about rulers, like like a straight edge ruler, and I was like, for some reason, I just like took this like mental journey back to like elementary school where like me and like my friends would be like sword fighting with them. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's not a ruler. It's like a sword. It's a sword. It's not a ruler. So I like had this whole like flash point idea of like, that's not a ruler. That's like a long lost, like ancient magical katana that you've discovered and unearthed from your drawer. And since like I like writing, I was like imagining a whole short story about like a kid who like is wielding this like katana ruler and is like bestowed with like insane powers, goes on a whole adventure or something. But yeah, that's the type of thing that I would think of.
That was legendary.
Thanks.
Miles,
sorry.
do you remember in writing design concepts your Fab 40 presentation? Was that yours? That was like the little things that are like random?
The 40 days of like quotes and stuff.
Or wait, the Pechakucha thing?
Oh yeah, like the aglet and the
Yes, that's what
That
this
was
made me
awesome.
think of. It made me laugh so much, and I still remember it.
oh, shout out.
um, but yeah, as we wrap up, feel free to reach out to us on social. Bounce ideas off of us. Use us as a resource, and yeah, we hope to see what you guys submit.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, really quick. If you guys have any questions about the brief or like anything that you're like, should I do this? Like you can always reach out and ask us if, is the direction, like we're not going to tell you yes or no, but we can at least be a sounding board. So
Thank you guys for having
yeah,
us.
thanks. This is cool.
Thank
Also,
you guys. That was
have any-
awesome.
if you guys have any questions right now, like feel free to shoot. And if not, we could probably just keep rambling for a little bit.
Another question. How is, I know like here being a workshop director, like my skills for asking questions have like greatly evolved, and I was curious about like how is your guys's ability to like ask questions, or how has that evolved through the realm?
I think the way I'm trying to collect my thoughts. I think the way I sort of approach the idea, I get what you're asking. It's so you have this question, right, that you want to ask someone, and you're anticipating some type of answer. And again, this is just my process, so whatever. But so I have a question I want to ask someone, and I'm anticipating some type of answer. I think one thing that I do is I try to like put myself in their position, and I try to think, all right, if I am being asked a question, what is the way that someone can ask me that question so that I can give them the answer that they're looking for, or the type of answer, or like how can they reach me? And I basically just try to do that. Like if I'm trying to ask you like, what is this pen? Right? You're going to be like, that's a pen. Like that doesn't even make any sense. So if I were in that position trying to answer that, I would be confused. But if someone were to ask me like, this isn't a pen, what is it actually? Or this isn't a pen, what can it be? Then immediately I'm like getting that input of like, okay, so I'm being told this isn't actually a pen. Okay, so we've already set that like baseline. And now I'm being asked, think again about it. What is it? I'm like, okay, I see what you're going at here, you know? So I think a lot of it is just as simple as like, if you're the one receiving that question, what would need to be said to get you mentally where you would need to be to respond to that? Does that kind of solve that a little bit?
Definitely.
Cool. And also like it's different for different people. Like as you get to know someone, you know like how they think. So like you can start to appeal to like their like thought process, and you can build on that and say like, I know how you think, so I'm going to preface it with this, you know, thing, whatever it may be, and then lead into that question, because you're really just trying to get in their head and appeal to how they think so that they can give you the like quality of response that you're looking for.
All right.
I don't know. That might be too big brain. I don't know.
No,
But
perfect.
that's how I think about it. Just a lot of empathy.
We love it. Hi, Elliot. Just have to announce to the room. Elliot's here.
Hi.
We are so
Sorry,
happy you're here. Very exciting.
I will not be showing face, but I'm happy to be here.
It's okay. We can still see the smiling face in the picture. Well, I was wondering from the Rome peoples, what is your creative process? Because to even think so big, to think of prompts to get all of our creative processes going, like how did you get there? How do you guys do this? What's a look behind the curtain?
I mean, it definitely wasn't something like as a team that we figured out right away. And I think it's like okay, you know, to acknowledge that because we have like morphed our creative process because it's something that's so individualized, but then you enter a team environment and it's like, oh wait, like I have to figure out how Peter thinks, kind of like what he was saying. How does Rachel think? How does Kyla think? You know, and we kind of, it's okay to wear different hats too, is what I'm realizing. Because I think different parts of our university require that, and others enforce that we stay in our lane. And I don't know if that's necessarily realistic in every aspect of this. So it's so I think it's okay to just wear different hats and kind of yeah, it's okay that we're just still figuring it out.
I think also just it was we've never met in person, all of us. So just, you know, that's a huge hurdle in itself. But I feel like it's so hard to speak on like an individual creative process, but what I love with this group specifically is just how we can bounce off each other. And I think that's the hugest part of our creative process as a team, is just that bouncing back and forth of changing the idea and morphing it and almost like molding it into the final, you know, product that we want to ship out to everyone. So it's cool.
Also,
yeah. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, just finding the right resources that work. Like we tried group like text message, and then we're now using Slack, which is cool. And I know people are on it all the time anyways. So kind of just finding what works best for everyone in terms of communication. Like Rachel said, we aren't in person, so like finding something virtually that works.
That's also a really good point, and I feel like no one really talks about it, but being organized helps your creative process. And I can't stress that enough because I'm not an organized person. But when I have an organized team, I feel like we can focus more on the big idea and less on like that miscommunication step or not feeling like we're getting, you know, input from each other. I think that's a huge thing. So being organized.
Totally. And within the like context of like being a group, like developing a creative process as a group, I think a big part of it is like building off of each other, kind of like how we were saying earlier of how one idea might be a domino effect to another. Well, each time like one of those dominoes hits another one, that's a moment of like, I really like the essence of this sentence, but I don't think it's worded correctly. Right? That's like one of those moments where a domino hits another, and then it's like, okay, we went from here hit the domino, it's going off into another one. And yeah, it's just a lot of building building up and building off of each other instead of like tearing down and having like a destructive process where it's like scrap that, move to this. It's like, okay, we can make a movement, but it's going to be a springboard off of the last one. And I think that's a big one. I'm just looking through right now on my other screen, like the rounds of drafts that we did for this last brief, and like most of it is just like highlighted with that little comment indicator, and there's just comments on comments of, you know, this is good, but what if we did this? This is close, not quite. And in like that group setting, it's like you gotta build momentum somehow, and you aren't gonna do that if you're just coming to a dead stop every single time something isn't quite right.
I think also reversing that, like reversing our process back just a little bit. When we initially started talking about how we wanted to approach this brief, there was a lot of conversation about just like human truths right now. And that's an interesting thing for us is like, we thought, okay, we just did a brief that feels really heavy and is focused on like maybe the negative aspects of America. So we wanted to take maybe a more fun approach to this one. And like we felt like for a winter term when it's raining outside and it's kind of like dull, giving something fun to do. So it's just like thinking about all the different aspects to what makes your brief successful, and that also is a part of the creative process, I think, because there's a lot of like really thoughtfulness in how we wanted to deliver something and what type of message we want to deliver.
AfterHours team, do you guys kind of have your own creative process? I'm
Yeah.
gonna put it back on you guys.
Good question.
Oh, they never turn it back on us. This is fun.
I know, the tables have turned. I was gonna
Kara,
say,
go for it.
I completely agree with everything that both Maggie and Elliot have been sounding off in the chat. Even just today, it's this madness of being on Slack all the time, ready to reply to all the chaos that goes down. Even like 10 minutes ago, we were like, okay, our usual meeting host has to be in a different Zoom call. We need a new Zoom link, like let's go 10 minutes before. And it's just that quick pivot. We're always on our heels, we're always on our toes. I think that's a part of our creative process, is being able to move around really quickly because there's a lot of moving parts to what we do. So yeah, Mo and Miles and AfterHours team, anybody else have an answer?
So much communication, so much Slack, and a lot of just trust, because we have, I don't know about how your guys' team works, but within our team, we have different positions. So Miles is my co, and he just gets all of the brain thoughts at all times, and he just has to deal with them. So we bounce off, and we bring it to the team, and the team bounces off, and it's just a whole lovely process of throwing thoughts out.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's like a bit of a different dynamic just because we're all kind of doing different things, and you guys are more like united with a brief. But I would say totally like communication also, but I feel like it's also like knowing how other teammates work, because like I know that Mo's got it like off the top. She can come up with questions like whenever, but like I don't know, like some people just need more preparation and you just send them what they need. And so I think it's also just knowing your team.
Definitely knowing the strengths around you so that you can elevate those strengths from everyone else too. Huge part.
That too.
Like just Miles as a whole. There you go. But does anyone from the room have questions too? Anything about, or anyone around want to ask the room anything?
I think Nicole was going to add something. Sorry to call you out, Nicole.
No, that's okay. I was going to just talk about us more because who doesn't love that? I was just going to say that I feel like something that our team does really well and that helps us collaborate well is that we're all like comfortable being kind of vulnerable with each other. So if one of us is like, hey, I'm just like having a really hard time right now, like, I need help picking up this slack. We're like very much able to communicate about those kinds of more like tough things that are kind of sometimes uncomfortable to talk about, or like you feel like you're maybe like letting down your team or something, but there's always someone who's like, yes, of course, how can I support you? And so I think that's something that our team does really well.
I like what you said there. I think it's a good thing to remind yourself every once in a while that like we're all just people, just like humans. We aren't weird work robot flesh sacks, like just pumping out content. Like, we're people. We got other stuff, and just treating people like people, not like you're a person and I need something for you for this thing. And like, just in any group setting, no matter what the field or anything is, or just like communicating to people as a just human being, like coming at it from like a very like human approach is just like the way it always should be. So yeah, that's a huge part that like I thank you so much for bringing it up, Nicole, because like that's it. That's like the big thing, I feel like.
I want to do something kind of radical and ask Maggie and Elliot off the top. They are not prepped at all, so sorry. How did being a part of the Rome and all of that in the J School in general and learning all of what we're talking about in the collaboration, how has that helped you guys in your journey away from leaving me and Eugene? You also don't have to answer, but
No,
I'm gonna do it anyway.
Good luck reining it in once Elliot and I get going. I don't know, you guys buckle up is all I want to say. But, no, I think that we do so much in the program. We do so much work in the classroom, and we come up with cool shit for our portfolios that people love to look at, recruiters and all of that. But it gets like repetitive for people to look at the same kinds of student work all the time. And so doing stuff either from like a leadership perspective, like Elliot and I and the other founding members, like creating a space like that is really cool and differentiating, but also submitting work and just like being able to demonstrate a breadth of creativity and different ideas is such an opportunity. Yeah, the founding members flex. But no, just I think that I've heard a lot of feedback from people and how it's impacted my opportunities that I've gone for is being able to show like more of a variety and being able to push the limits for something where there are no rules and everything is published and the stakes like could not be lower. People can swing big, so do that.
Yeah, I think just having like kind of diversifying the things that you're working on makes such a difference. Like when I was interviewing for the job I had now, like they were like kind of interested in the other things on my resume, like jobs or whatever, but like working in the Rome is what we talked about for like 45 minutes because it was something that like nobody else had really done. A little bit different from what they normally see. So kind of, yeah, just getting outside of your comfort zone in terms of like things that you do and things that other people do definitely makes all the difference. And I think is more fun. Like there comes a point where creating another ad for a class is like, it's great. And like your portfolio is awesome because of it, but it does get kind of boring. So doing something different is so refreshing. So yeah.
That was amazing. Thank you guys for letting me do that to you. Does anyone else have any questions? I know everyone here is just a crazy, talented, busy person, but I want to give everyone a chance before we let people go. And if not, I'm going to ask one more. How many more briefs are you all planning on doing this year? Is that something you guys plan out, or is it just when you are inspired and ready to go? What should we be looking for?
Who wants to take it? Go ahead. Do we have two or do we have one? Two after this?
I think or one. Yeah.
Basically we're doing one per term, I think. Peter, fact check.
Yeah, sounds right. I think the idea is basically, like we got a ton of shit going on in all of our lives. Like we're all students. We're all, I don't know, maybe we're applying for internships or whatnot. On top of all, like you have a social life. Like there's a lot of stuff going on in our lives. And the last thing that we would want to do is make the Rome like something that's like a big stressful commitment, or it's there if you need it, or when you want it. It's a zero stakes environment. So the idea behind once a term is like, hey, if you just need a break from schoolwork and you're getting just completely burnt out on thinking creatively for school, we're here. Like, we're that soft bed to like lay on, to jump onto in relief when you just want to do fun, creative stuff just for the sake of doing it. just because it makes your brain feel good, you know? Yeah, exactly. Flesh sacks and soft beds. My analogies are just out of control tonight. But yeah, I mean, like that's the basic idea. Once a term, because it's not supposed to be something that you really need to like grind and get done. It's like we're here because ideally we all like doing this work and we would do it in our free time because it makes us feel good. And if that's what you want to do, cool. Do the work, submit to us. We want to see it. We want to gas you up. We want to give you feedback from people who know what they're talking about. So yeah.
First of all, thank you, Miles, for making me use the raise hand icon to ask a question. It's awesome. My question was sort of on the back end of things for you guys. When you guys are finding people to look at people's work, have those connections led to anything for you? Like, do you maintain those connections? And then maybe Maggie and Elliot, have you had any like further communication with these industry people that you worked with? Rachel's giggling.
I'm just watching Elliot.
Why?
I mean, I think a lot of the people we bring in, like or at least when Elliot and I were in the game, it was like 50-50 on folks that we already had sort of a connection with, whether it was like Joaquin interning at Wyden and knowing folks there, or knowing someone who knew someone, or Alex Morrison has been like over the lifetime of the Rome has been like a huge supporter. So he and like other folks down at BBDO, getting them in. Yeah. And so maintaining relationships with them, like we would still send out like, check out like new work is out, even if they're not, reviewing, just to remind them that the Rome's going on, and to thank them. Like, so totally. Definitely keeping those relationships has been cool. And it's all about like genuine networking. I know there's like a lot of pressure on just like adding people on LinkedIn and having like a big list of names of like, I know this person or whatever, but being able to like bond over cool stuff like this, that like literally nobody has to do it. Nobody has to continue the Rome. It could die this year. I hope it doesn't, but like it could stop existing. Nobody has to submit, but people do. And being able to like bond over just wanting to make stuff with someone who is just starting out and has like little to no experience, or someone who's been in the game for like 40 years. It's always really exciting, I think, for those people to see that like initiative and like energy.
Totally. I was also curious with the current team, how do you guys find I guess, are they panelists? Are they judges? What do you call them?
Judges, both, whatever. Yeah.
How do you find them?
So it's an interesting conversation. The first round, we kind of like took people who were like alumni from our program. And then Joaquin was generous enough to give us a contact as well from Wine and Kennedy. And then we had some professors, but for this round, that's been a major thing that we've talked about. And I'm kind of trying to spearhead that a little bit. A huge thing that I've realized in the last 6 months is Twitter is your friend. And I reach out to a lot of people and they reach out back, and it's insane. And like sometimes it leads to connections that like I never thought would be options, but a lot of the ad community on Twitter is really friendly and like willing to help out in a lot of different ways and give you connections that are insane. So that's what I'm hoping to do in the future, is be bold and reach out to those people, because they appreciate that authenticity, I think also once you hop off of LinkedIn, you'll realize you can like have this really nice balance of professional and personal. And like right as you enter LinkedIn, it's like this, like, I hope this email finds you well, which is not always the best way to approach things. And like certain people don't do well with that. So it's like, I think finding a social network that's acceptable to like contact people through. Yeah, there's definitely a good balance of like being like knowing your audience. If you know these connections for a little while before you reach out to them and you start to like see their work or see their personality, if they're funny, if they're more serious, if they like being around other creatives, like all sorts of things. You can kind of figure out, be weird, stalk them, and then reach out to them, but like don't let them know that you stalk them. Just be friendly. I don't know.
Smile and wave, boys.
Smile and wave.
Anyone know where
Thank you
that's
guys.
from? Yeah. Okay.
Well, that was amazing. And if that's everything, then I think we're all just ready to go and just want to go start working on the prompt. I don't know about you all, but I'm already thinking about what I can do instead of a wrap mask blank, what's it called? Hammock. But amazing. Oh yes, been showing us all the Twitters. But thank you guys so much. And Miles, you got any final wonderful thoughts?
No. All I gotta say is you guys killed it. I know I'm not a huge turnout, but super informative. PML's got gold nuggets of knowledge just sprinkling in. But yeah, thanks for coming
That's how I
out.
know you're in Fiji, Miles.
Oh my god.
We all figured that out at the same moment.
Exposed.
Wait, what did he say?
It's just only people in our fraternity call me PML. So Miles was like PML, and then Maggie immediately texts me. He's like, is Miles in Fiji? I'm like, yeah. You can tell by the PML, right? And she was like, yeah.
Brings me back.
Hey, it's good. I love it.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you,
thanks
everyone,
for having
seeing
us.
all
This
your
was great.
faces. We said the same thing, but we love you all. That was the main point. But thank you, everyone. We're gonna end this shindig, but especially Maggie and Elliot. So good to see your faces, and thank you to everyone on the room and everyone who showed up. You guys are all the best.
Yes,
Making
it was
my
so nice to
Thursdays
see you
so
all.
fun.
Yeah,
Bye, guys.
Shining
Thanks again, guys.
Have a great night, everyone.